Kenton, and this is Kenton Knows. In this video, I'm going to explain some of the best practices I have developed over the 20 plus years of owning and managing residential real estate. If you like this video, please hit the like button, leave me a comment, and consider subscribing to my channel. Let's start with some basic goals, because if you don't know what you want to accomplish, it's going to be very hard to get there. You may not agree with my goals, but if you want to be good at anything, you need to start with what you are aspiring to do. My main goal with real estate investing is to generate income and grow my wealth. To do that, I know that I need to keep my buildings fully occupied with tenants who pay the rent each month. To accomplish that year after year, I need to continually maintain and upgrade the apartments, which starts with responding to tenant issues quickly and showing my tenants and vendors respect in all interactions. This strengthens our relationship, and in life, relationships mean a lot. In my experience, people go the extra mile for people they have and want to maintain a relationship with over time. So let's start there. In order to generate income and grow your wealth in real estate, you need to keep your properties fully occupied with tenants who pay the rent, which will only be possible if you maintain and upgrade your apartments while responding quickly to tenants and vendors. This is clearly a little broad, but it sets the table for the details that support fulfilling these goals. Finding good tenants isn't always easy, but that is where everything really starts. To do that, I use a minimum credit score of 700 or a cosigner with 700 or better, which may seem high, but it truly gives me the best tenants. If I need to lower the rent to get someone with a high credit score, that is usually preferable to getting a higher rent with a tenant who may not pay or may be problematic in another way, such as being disruptive to the other tenants in the building or taking a lot of my time to follow up with them each month attempting to collect the rent. So my number one recommendation is to find great tenants by having a high credit score requirement and, if needed, lower the rent to get a great tenant. Everything is easier when you're working with good tenants. Next, you need to cultivate a good relationship with your tenants. That starts from the very first interaction and extends throughout the life of them renting from you. I must say that I have several tenants who valued my relationship so much that when they needed to move to a larger or smaller unit, they moved to another apartment that I owned, and we could continue our mutually beneficial relationship. I have also had tenants move out of my apartments and then come back after some bad experiences with other landlords, so the value of a good relationship with tenants is worth the effort. These tenants know that our relationship is special and not that common, which in turn is mutually beneficial. These tenants respect the property. They alert me to issues they see around the property. They pay rent on time and are generally good people who are also understanding when there is an issue, and we will work together to get it resolved quickly. So how do we cultivate and build solid relationships with our tenants? It starts with your first interaction, when they reach out to you inquiring about the availability of an apartment. Have a professional response to their inquiry with full details about the apartment, timing, fees, what's included, what isn't, and if possible, a full video tour of the apartment. I have found that the full video tour of the apartment clears up any ambiguity about the apartment and comes across as honest, informative, and very professional for smaller landlords like myself. Then, set a time for the showing, and the night before, I follow up with a reminder text as well as one in the morning. I realize that may be over communicating, but it prevents no-shows and it shows the prospect that they are important. During the showing, I'm sure to mention everything about the apartment and invite them to reach out if they have any additional questions later. If they seem interested, I send them a video on how to apply, and then I also have a move-in video to explain the move-in process. These videos are personal in that I am personally giving them all the information they need to make an informed decision, and it builds trust with me throughout the process. I continue to over-communicate and update them during the lease signing, setting up utilities, preparing for move-in, and follow-up after move-in. Once they are moved in, your property management system should send them invoices and they should be paying rent by the first of each month. If they have an issue with the property or paying rent or anything else, I try very hard to respond quickly, and I always give positive reinforcement for things they do that I like. For instance, if a tenant texts me that they will have rent on the 4th instead of the 1st, I will say, "Thank you for letting me know ahead of time," and that I really appreciate the open and honest communication. It reinforces that I appreciate their communication and continues building our relationship. If there is a problem, I attempt to solve the problem via text or a phone call with them. But if I will need to make a visit, then I let them know when to expect me or someone else to be there. I may also ask them for pictures or a video so I can potentially determine which parts or tools I may need to bring with me to hopefully fix it on the first visit. Psychologically, what you really want to communicate to your tenants is that they matter. They are important to you, and correcting the issue at hand is just as important and critical to you as it is to them. And many times, small things can be a big deal to a tenant. Don't diminish it by saying the item can wait and it isn't critical or something similar. For instance, a tenant may complain about a small thing like a broken blind. As a manager, you know this isn't going to create any additional damage if it isn't fixed right away, so it will surely be low on your list of priorities. However, don't brush them off or tell the tenant that. Take just a little extra time to say something like, "Thank you for bringing this to my attention. I know this is important to you and I will be sure it gets addressed soon." If you have a date and time, you or someone will be there, great. But if you don't, at least let them know you are taking their issues seriously, even though you know this isn't a big deal or a rush by any means. Showing them just a little extra care and attention will go a long way. Many times, they may respond by saying, "No rush," or something similar, which is great. Just don't let it fall off your radar though. Sometimes the tenants don't want to reciprocate the relationship you think you have built, so you also need to know when to let things go as well. For instance, I had a tenant with light switches in a hallway that broke. These were rocker light switches that, to be honest, really never break. However, the hallway was stacked with stuff along one side, making the hallway fairly narrow. The only way these switches were going to break is from them being hit while someone walked down the hallway, most likely holding something that would hit the edge of the switch. I informed the tenants that the hallway needed to be clear and that switches just don't break from normal use. They were being hit from the side, and I thought I was being very nice when I asked them for only $100 to replace the 5 light switches that I replaced. The tenant was very offended that I would suggest they had anything to do with them breaking. I explained there was no way that all the switches along the narrow hallway just happened to break when not one other switch in the apartment or any other apartment in the building had broken. The tenant was adamant and hurt that I could believe they caused the damage. I changed them myself, and since the rocker light switches are about $2.50 each, it just wasn't worth making it a bigger issue. I know I was correct, but fighting on this would only sour the relationship further without any real upside for me. However, I will take this into account when making future decisions regarding their lease or any other issue that may come up in the future with these tenants. Relationships go both ways, and when the other person isn't willing to work with you in a mutually beneficial way, you need to take that in and remember it for when they need a favor in the future. I don't mean you should get back at them. I just mean you don't have to be as lenient or forgiving when they haven't shown you mutual respect and understanding. It's clearly important to be responsive to your tenants, but you should also be proactive with regard to maintaining and upgrading your units. I have a few units that still have white appliances, so I'm slowly working at upgrading these units. I normally just wait until one of the major appliances break to the point that I can't fix it. Then, if I'm going to replace an oven or a refrigerator, I'll potentially just replace all of the appliances, save the old ones for spare parts. Or, if there's a big sale on appliances, I might do it then as well. But having this in mind lets me be opportunistic in my upgrades. Bigger things like roof leaks or no heat calls need to be addressed immediately, as these can cause significant damage to the property if they aren't corrected quickly. And of course, these issues can also make an apartment very difficult to live in, to say the least. When you get something like this, be sure to let the tenant know that you are taking this seriously and it is a top priority. To the tenant, these issues are very personal and affect them significantly, so try to convey to the tenant that you feel the same way. Inform them who and when someone will be there. If it won't be the same day, be sure to contact them again in the morning to confirm the time someone will be arriving, and then check in afterwards to be sure everything is working the way it should be. This additional attention and a little extra communication will go a long way in building the trust and hopefully provide you with some latitude in future issues. What I haven't talked about is your vendors. These people are running businesses and they are most likely selling themselves to you. But if you want good service, there are only a couple things you need to remember. Number one, they want to be paid quickly. If you can pay a vendor the day of or within a few days of service, they will remember it. And if they have 2 or 3 calls at the same time, they will most likely take care of the people that pay them quickly, which hopefully is you. Number 2, they want to finish your work and move on to the next job. So making sure they have access to the work area and getting answers or decisions made quickly are their top concerns. Personally, I think lockboxes are great, and I highly recommend that you invest in them. They can be used for tenant lockouts as well as emergency access by contractors to common areas and tenant spaces if needed. By having a lockbox with a key in it for the vendor in case you can't meet them on site at the agreed upon time ensures that they aren't stuck waiting for you. If you need to meet a vendor, be sure you're on time and or communicating with them in case you are running late. Once the work gets started, The contractor or vendor may need you to make a decision with regard to the work, so be sure you are reachable and available while they are doing the work. Sometimes it is the grade or finish of material or which model to purchase. If you are unsure, I like to ask what the person doing the work would put into their house or their property and why. Then you may or may not ask some follow-up questions or need to do some research, but try not to take too long. Remember, the contractor wants to finish the job so they can bill you and move on to the next job. The contractor will appreciate a quick answer. Your tenants will appreciate having the work completed quickly. And let's face it, you want this issue resolved so you can move on as well. I realize this isn't all-encompassing and doesn't address everything, but if you can keep the big picture goals in mind while doing the day-to-day tasks, you will hopefully prioritize the things that really affect what you are trying to achieve. Yes, there are a lot of other things you need to be doing, like financing, accounting, finding new properties, showings, cleanings, and much more. But when you keep your end goals in mind, I believe you will be happier with the work you are doing, which will be reflected in you successfully achieving your goals. In summary, find great tenants who pay the rent and build strong relationships by clearly communicating often. Also, be sure you are proactively maintaining and upgrading your apartments. Build relationships with contractors and vendors by respecting their time and paying them quickly. If you can keep these few things at the front of your mind in everything you do, I can promise you that the rest will fall into place rather smoothly. If you liked this video, please hit the like button and consider subscribing. If you have any other thoughts or comments on what I discussed in this video, please share them in the comments below. If you found this video useful, please like and share it with someone who might enjoy seeing it. Thank you for watching Kenton Knows, and I wish you the best of luck with all of your real estate investments.